Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre is speaking at a campaign stop in Hamilton. Let's listen in live to some of his remarks.
Brought us over the lost decade. And Mark Carney will continue with every single policy he inherits from Justin Trudeau. He might look different, he might use more different buzzwords, but it is exactly the same Liberal agenda. We cannot afford a fourth Liberal turn. After 10 years of Liberal government, predictions about housing shortages, mental health crises, and a loss of hope for many Canadians is already the reality. It's funny, yesterday a CBC host was saying, well, are all of these terrible things in this government report really realistic? Could they really happen in 15 years? And to her credit, another journalist said, well, for a lot of Canadians, that's the way it is now. That's how desperate the situation has already become after 10 years of Liberal government. So the choice in this election could not be clearer. A fourth term, Liberal term, with Mark Carney, whose plan is even more reckless and costly than Justin Trudeau's, or a new Conservative government that will cut waste and bureaucracy, bring down taxes, unleash home building and resource development so that Canadians can afford a good life on a safe street. That's the choice before us today. That's a good choice. Nothing has become a more profound symbol of the lost Liberal decade. Nothing more than the homeless encampments that were unheard of before this government took office, but have now become a part of everyday life. The crime that is associated with them, the violence and the fear that is now overtaking our streets because of liberal drug, criminal justice, border and other policies. Violent crime is up 15%. Gun crime up a shocking 116%. Extortion and auto theft up 357% and 46% respectively. And you are the ones facing it on the front lines, the police officers here with me today, and there are many police officers in this crowd. They're the ones facing it. Here in Hamilton, an innocent young woman was killed waiting for the bus to go to work just the other day. The shot was apparently fired from a passing SUV at another car, but missed and hit her instead. She was a student studying at Mohawk College with her whole life ahead of her. It was a shocking and senseless tragedy. Also this week, the court is hearing closing arguments in the case of two individuals charged with shooting OPP Constable Greg Pierre just 3 years ago. Again, he was a young man, a heroic young man with his entire life ahead of him, a loving son and brother whose loss has left his family and law enforcement with holes in their hearts. Randall McKenzie, one of the accused, had a criminal record a mile long, and is so often the case, he was out on bail for one violent offense when he allegedly committed this crime. Imagine where we would be today. Imagine where Mr. Pierre family would be today if he had not been released on bail. Imagine if Conservative three strikes you're out laws were actually in place and he had been locked away. What would have happened? And more importantly, what would not have happened? Sadly, these kinds of tragedies have become all too common in recent years. For the last 10 years, the Liberal government has unleashed this crime with lax laws like C-75, which requires judges release offenders under, quote, the least onerous conditions at the earliest opportunity, a law that Mark Carney has pledged, a Liberal law that Mark Carney has pledged to keep in place. The Liberals brought in house arrest, C5, which allows repeat offenders to do their sentences in their living rooms, watching Netflix, able to walk out the door at any time to reoffend. And instead of promising to work with law enforcement to end the crime and chaos, Mark Carney has pledged to keep the Liberal policies in place. He wants to ban hunting rifles rather than banning gun criminals. As Prime Minister, I'll listen to law enforcement and work with them so that together we can reverse the dangerous Liberal crime wave of the last decade and bring home safe streets for a change, for a change, for a change.
Okay, we've been listening in to Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre making an announcement in Hamilton alongside many police officers in the crowd, getting tough on crime, talking about his campaign promise of 3 strikes, you're out, and blaming the Liberal government for the wave of gun crime we are seeing, also citing the death of that Hamilton International student who was shot by a stray bullet.